Hey there, everyone. Well, I'm very, very sorry. I went a very long time without doing a video, and I'm definitely want to apologize for that. But I'll start out this video with an overall update and some pins that I've just recently collected. I've started getting sort of more passionate about some vintage pins, so I've collected several of them, and I'm going to share that with you in the beginning, as well as a little overall update. But I understand that a lot of people want to watch just the review of a pin, so when I edit this, I will try to be sure that I put in the time frame underneath the video in the description what I'm talking about at what point. So if you are here just for me to talk about the Model 52V, then you can just go straight to that should you want to. And so yes, it has been 2 months, which is not as long as I would have hoped. I had a lot of things go on, mainly had a couple of days I worked where I would work with only like one off day, but I will still say this: I still love my work. It's my favorite job I've ever had since I moved up here. I will admit that. And I hope to continue. I just hit my 3rd month, so very happy with that, because I started August 20th, and which is if you haven't seen when I put the community post back all the way back when I first got hired. So I'm a courtesy clerk at the grocery store now, and as I said, I've really enjoyed it. I'm actually now pretty close with all my co-workers and managers, and I couldn't tell you how grateful I am for, a job that's this caring. And I've only ever had perhaps 1 or 2 rude customers, so we're doing very well. I can't even express how grateful I am that I have work like that. Excuse me. And so with my first 1 or 2 paychecks, I decided that I wouldn't mind doing it for these pins that I found. So to start out, the pin I'm talking about today is the Waterman 52V, and that was one among the first pins I bought with my first paycheck. And I also decided how I would organize my pins is I got 2 Asvon, I think they're 20 count pin cases, and I highly recommend you check out these cases. They're really good. They're like $20 US dollar, $20, something along that line, and they're wonderful. And so how I've organized my collection at the moment is in 2 of these. So in the blue one, I have my modern pins, is how I've decided to put that. And then in this gray one is where I house my vintage ones. And there we go, as you can see. So right here is the models that would range from the late 1940s to this one in the end here is from the 1990s, and then I have one from the 80s that I just recently purchased. And then I have my 2 Mont Blanc 146 and 149 on this side. And these 3 and the one I'll be talking about today are the ones I most recently purchased. So I have the Model 52V, and then I have right here, if you can tell, I have a late 1920s Waterman's Lady Patrician in the Persian celluloid, which I fell in love with that material as soon as I saw it. So that's why you can see I've purchased 2 models in that. And I got the Lady I don't know if it's Patricia or Patrician. I've seen it listed under both, but I think this seller listed under Patrician. anyhow. And that shares the same 14 karat number 2 nib as the one I'll be talking about. I got both of those from the same seller. And then after that, I purchased a 1932 Waterman's. I think this is a Model 52, I believe, the full-size Model 52. And I cannot say, it has a larger nib than the others, but I'm not 100% sure if it's a number 3 nib or a number 5 nib. It appears to look more like a number 5 nib to me. And it has the key hole for the breather hole in the middle of the nib, where my others just have the regular round breather hole. And then last but not least, so I got that from a different seller. And then I got a 1983 Waterman Limon Model 200. So it's a little smaller than their Model 100. And it's in the blue marble finish. And it has a 18 karat gold broad nib. And this is when they were making them as a cartridge converter filled. It has a wonderful pen. I'll be talking about that shortly someday. Hopefully not months from now, but one day I'll talk about it because it's a lovely writer. It's wonderful. And I don't know if you can see or not. Yes, this one happens to be one of the tester models, so I don't know how many of those were produced, but it's one of those several thousand that they produced for pen stores to help the people test the pen before they get it. So that was really unique. So I fell in love with that and had to get it. And so those are those. And then I have also purchased, I'll try to remember to put a picture because I won't be able to turn the camera around as it's propped up right now. But I purchased, last but not least, what I believe to be this. It's a 1928 Waterman, I think it's a Model 62 and a half, I believe. And these are in the red ripple, which I fell in love with the red ripple anyway. So I was like wanting to get something that they made with that material because it's phenomenal. And they're, I say there because there was 2 of these in this set. So there was one of them here that was no cracks or anything. However, unfortunately, there's a crack in this one, but this is holding that on pretty good. And sadly, only one of these is functioning, which is this one. I put a new sack in both of them, new ink sack or ink bladder in both of them. However, unfortunately, the lever on the other one had come apart to where it's not wanting to put pressure on the ink sac. So it will rot, but you have to dip it. So I usually am using the other if I want to. And with that, I got the entire desk set with a little carved walnut wood squirrel on it. It's gorgeous. So I'll need to send a picture of that. But anyway, so that concludes that update. So I'll now be moving on to the specific pen. So this is a, as I've said, this is a Waterman Model 52V. And I believe from everything I read, which I'm normally reading off of separate posts, I watched a few videos, but I usually am reading to do my learning. I guess I learn by osmosis better than I do having to watch through a whole video, but I did watch a couple of videos. So this is the, as I said, this Model 52V, and it's the sister model to the full-size 52, because the way that they do their model numbers, you could say it's a little bit similar to how they would do it with Mont Blanc, because as Mont Blanc would do when they have like the Model 149, for example, and then they would have 1 standing for masterpiece, 4 standing for the piston filling mechanism, and 9 being a number 9 size nib. So you could say that they sort of do that in a way with the Waterman, because so the 5 stands for it being a lever filler, and then the 2 stands for the nib size, which is number 2 nib on these, and then the V stands for vest size pin. So you could sort of draw the conclusion it's their pocket pin, but they were all so small back in the day. And also I learned as well that if you ever see models that say, such as if it says it's a 52.5 model, that would stand for, I believe it stands for a narrower overall girth of the pin, but I'm not 100% sure if it stands for at the grip section or the entire pin. But in any case, that's a little bit of that. And so they would start making the regular model 52 in about 1915, I believe, is what I read. But with this one, I believe its date of production would probably range between 1926 to 1930, because in 1930 they would not be making the hard rubber material as these are, and they would introduce some of the ripple materials in the beginning in 1926. And so I think that sums up most of it. And this one happens to have quite a bit of brassing on this clip. Usually the clip would probably be completely silver in appearance, but this one is very brassed. However, what's really nice about this is that the this hard chased design rubber, it's almost jet black, so it's in quite good shape, especially, you know, considering this pen could be 90 years old. You know, I'm really happy with that. And all of the wording is in good condition as well. The branding is in good shape. And it's, I'll use my thing here, my loop. Let's see, it's Waterman Ideal fountain pen, and then patented 1884 and 1889. This one is New York, USA, and August 4th, 1909 are the 3 patents that are listed. So I believe that sums up most of it. And but how you can tell the majority of the time about the vintage Watermans, especially any of the old hard rubber style ones, is in the back of the barrel. It will have it listed, which this does as it is. It's a Model 52V as it's listed right here. So I believe that concludes the part where I'm facing you. So I'm going to turn this around, and I'm going to show you size comparisons, and as well as how it writes. So because when I got, the only ones that were not completely restored was the desk set that I showed you. They were cleaned out and put a new sack in them, but they're not totally complete. The only one that writes was that one. But in any case, I will now turn this around to the paper, and we'll have a look. So you can join me down here. So I'm back to show you the Waterman's 52V with a little bit more detail to it, and I will give a writing sample here in a moment. But I felt what would be interesting is to show you a size comparison. I have 3 vintage pens and 2 modern pens to show you alongside it, to give you an idea of the overall size of it. So this one here is a Merlin Model 33, which it's pretty close in size, a little bit taller than it is, but pretty close. This one is from about the mid-1940s. And then I also have an Esterbrook J series, which is quite a bit bigger. It's maybe more in tune to the size of what the full-size Model .52 Waterman is. And then I have a modern Pelican M200, which is actually quite close. And then the last two I have, this is the one I thought was pretty close, which is a 1986 Pelican M250, which is pretty close in size too. Quite close. Still a little bit taller. However, what I found interesting was this is a modern Kaweco Sport, and it's very close. I would say that Mall 52Vs would be very, if you're familiar with a Kaweco Sport, they would be very close in size to it. This one happens to be the piston fill model, but it's very, very close. It just millimeters different, probably, I would say. Then, if you were to post them, you know, it's, I don't know how many millimeters different, but not too much different. And then if I go back to the 1986 Pelican, actually with it posted, it's closer than I first thought. I would maybe say this M250 is maybe the closest in size. And this is a piece of Clairefontaine Triomphe paper. It's a 90 GSM. I get started here. Here we go. And I will just begin writing without flexing the nib. So I'm just going to place the nib down with no pressure. And the nib size of this, when I purchased it from the seller, he noted it would be an extra fine, and then with flexibility to a double broad. Now, of course, when you have a vintage flexible nib, it's not going to be glassy smooth, as I said in my maybe Todd Swan video from last couple months ago. It's not going to be glassy smooth. However, this is very nice feeling. He did not say if he did any nib smoothing to this, but it feels like he perhaps did. And then the ink is Diamond. Onyx Black. Probably one of my favorite black inks I've used, actually. So highly recommend you give that a try. And you can just get, if you'd like to test it out, you can just get a 30 milliliter bottle on Amazon, and that's how I got this one. So I will now do some lines, and then I'm going to increase pressure. And then the seller noted it was a 7 out of 10 in flexibility. So it's not quite a wet noodle, which would be a 10, but it's pretty good flexibility. It's pretty responsive as well. It's more so than the Maybe Todd pen. So it's got a lot to it. I love how bouncy and character this nib has to it. It's just lovely. That's why I collected so many of these. And once I first got these two sent to me, I just fell in love with the old Watermans. That started again there. It's pretty much a gusher when it comes to the ink flow, which is kind of nice. It's really pretty good. I'm only having these hard starts because I'm trying to hold it around the tripod, but usually it's a little bit better than that. But yes, guys, so that's one of the vintage pens I added to my collection. And I really hope that you enjoyed watching. And I hope I see you sooner than later, as I hope I don't make a long time go by. So thank you so much, guys, and I hope I see you pretty soon. So you all take care and have a good one.